Hello, everyone. Welcome. Before we begin, a few announcements. We have Spanish interpretation available tonight, and we also have closed captioning. So before we begin the interpretation settings, I'd like to have an announcement quickly from Annabella.
Bienvenidos a la reunión de redistribución de los distritos de la ciudad de Los Ángeles. En unos momentos activaremos la función de interpretación. Verán en la parte de abajo de su pantalla un icono de un mundo. Hagan clic en ese icono y seleccionen español para escuchar su idioma. Si necesitan leer subtítulos en español, pueden acceder a ellos en el enlace que está en pantalla. Muchas gracias.
Thank you for that. And with that, any second now, the interpretation button should be available at the bottom of your screen. So depending on any the language you'd like to listen to, please select the interpretation globe icon. In addition, if you'd like to see closed captioning during this meeting, please go down to the closed captioning icon at the bottom of your screen. And with that, I will pass it back to Chair Ali.
Thank you very, very much, Ariana. And I want to welcome commissioners. I want to welcome members of the public to what will be the last meeting of the Los Angeles City Redistricting Commission. Our primary purpose tonight is to approve the final report of the commission that must be submitted to the City Council tomorrow. Just a couple introductory remarks. Despite many challenges, this is a commission that has been clear about and has remained committed to its values and principles throughout this process. Over the last few weeks, many people in this community have commented that this has been the most open and transparent redistricting process they have ever witnessed. In particular, we should be particularly proud of the fact that for the first time in the city's history, we have drawn lines and deliberated on our maps in the full view of the public. As you know, one of our more significant recommendations we called in the final report is the need for a truly independent redistricting commission. If I have learned anything in this process, it's that this quasi-independent model advisory to the City Council does not work. As many of you know, Common Cause has long been a champion for independent redistricting. And on October 27th, they released a recommendation to the City of Los Angeles to move towards an independent commission, citing the experience of this commission as another important reason to support this recommendation. I've asked Jonathan Meta-Stein, the Executive Director of California Common Cause, to join us this evening and make a brief presentation. So, Jonathan, thank you for joining us.
But before we hand it over to Jonathan, Chair, can we take roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just jumped the gun because it's the last meeting. Yeah. So you'd think I'd learn after how many meetings. So yes, please, Ariana, call the roll.
Chair Ali?
I am here, ahead of myself.
Vice Chair Diaz?
Present.
Vice Chair Hyun?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Barrett?
Present.
Commissioner Braymond?
Here.
Commissioner Brenes?
Present.
Commissioner Kanya?
Present.
Commissioner Delgadillo?
Here.
Commissioner Friedberg?
Present.
Commissioner Goldberg?
Here.
Commissioner Katz?
Here.
Commissioner Lay?
Present.
Commissioner Minato?
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Here.
Commissioner Membreño?
Here.
Commissioner Moreno? Commissioner Polanco?
Here.
Commissioner Pritchard?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
And Commissioner Torres?
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And again, apologize for getting ahead of myself. So Jonathan, I want to once again welcome you. Thank you for joining us. I know you're traveling. And so Jonathan Meta-Stein, the Executive Director of...
Can we read in ex parte communications and read in item one?
God. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
I was about to...
So are there any ex parte communications that have to be disclosed by commissioners? These are communications that may have occurred since the last meeting. Commissioner Diaz.
Yes, on Sunday, October 24th at approximately 1:30 p.m., I spoke to Councilmember Kevin DeLeon. He thanked me for my service on the commission. He thanked the commission for all of the hard work that we did in putting together the draft map, all of the hours for the meetings, and really lifted up the pride and I think the integrity in terms of doing the role.
Thank you, Commissioner Diaz. Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes, at about 10:30 this morning, I'm not sure exactly the time, I had about a 10-minute call with some of the staff from CD4 about the final draft and where we are.
Thank you, Commissioner Goldberg. Commissioner Torres.
Yes, at about 5:30 this evening, I spoke with Ackley Padilla, Chief of Staff for Councilmember Martinez, talking about the agenda for tonight. We spoke for a couple minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Torres. Commissioner Brenes.
Yes, after last week's meeting, October 21st, I received a text message from Mary Hodge from the mayor's office thanking me and the other commissioners appointed by the mayor for our service.
Thank you, Commissioner Brenes. Do I see any more disclosures? I do not. So, okay, thank you very, very much. So I think, Jonathan, I can finally go to you.
Not yet, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
One
Commissioner
more.
Katz.
Commissioner Katz, I've got on 4:30 on Monday, I had about a 20-minute conversation with Lisa Hanson, Chief of Staff to Councilman Blumenfeld. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Katz. Okay. Seeing no more disclosures. So Jonathan, I'm finally going to turn to you.
Thank you, Chair Ali. In communication with staff, they mentioned I'd have 10 minutes to share our views. Is that still appropriate?
That's fine. Thank you, Jonathan.
Great. Thank you. Chair Ali, vice chairs, and commissioners, good evening. On behalf of California Common Cause, our staff and our membership, I would like to thank your commission and your staff for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I am Jonathan Methenstein. I'm the Executive Director of California Common Cause. As you may know, we are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to building a democracy that includes the voices of all of California's communities. We work on voting rights, money in politics, and most importantly right now, redistricting, with the goal of ending structural inequities in our state and local democracies and creating governments at all levels that are accountable to and reflective of all Californians. We have worked to pass reforms at the state and local levels to make redistricting more transparent, trustworthy, independent, inclusive, and accessible. We have been monitoring the City of Los Angeles Advisory Redistricting Commission since its appointment and doing advocacy throughout your process in hopes of ensuring a redistricting process that prioritizes the community and results in maps that allow for fair representation. Earlier this week, we issued a letter to this commission, its staff, and the Los Angeles City Council calling for the creation of a truly independent redistricting commission that is insulated from political influence. Upon invitation by this commission, I'm here tonight to lift up that call and to support several recommendations in your draft report to council, including but not limited to the recommendation that the City of LA establish a fully independent redistricting commission to redraw council district boundaries in 2031 and beyond. This commission, your staff, and the community organizations you have partnered with in your process have put hundreds of hours of time and effort into educating and engaging LA's communities. You have poured your figurative blood, sweat, and tears into generating public participation. And I must applaud you. You have generated thousands of public submissions, both written and verbal. At times, your hearings have had more speakers and more participation than the hearings of the state's redistricting commission. And you've done it all in public view. And yet all of your work over the last many months and all of the community input that went into this process could disappear with the snap of a fingers if City Council decides it does not like what you've done and can replace your work with a map they have drawn with little to no community participation or process. And unfortunately, we have every reason to believe that that will happen. Despite repeated calls for greater independence and transparency, the City Council and their staff have continued to engage in the redistricting process to their advantage and to the detriment of the public. This has been evidenced by One, over 130 ex parte communications with the commissioners about redistricting, with an increase in these last final weeks in the mapping process, raising questions whether the commission is able to operate independently and suggesting elected officials are seeking to influence its work behind the scenes. Two, the appointment of longtime political actors and allies to this commission who may have long histories of public service, but whose presence on a redistricting commission indicate to the public and the press that commissioners are intended to act as political proxies. Third, and worse, the capricious and overnight replacement of commissioners, especially during the mapping process, leading to the 11th hour revocation of commissioners who had heard countless hours of public testimony and the introduction of new commissioners who had not been part of the commission's long journey. Four, the use of City Council's own demographers to draw district lines outside of the advisory commission. Five, public statements in recent weeks that make unfounded accusations against the commission staff and their work. And six, of course, the precedent of 2011, when City Council undermined the 2011 Advisory Commission in favor of a district map developed by City Council with disastrous and scandalous results we are still reading about in the headlines to this day. Los Angeles can and should do better. The current process allows the powerful to place their thumb on the scales, ensuring that their interests are protected at the expense of transparency, fairness, equity, and community-driven maps. It also leads to political posturing and infighting, subterfuge, and backroom planning, all of which generates negative headlines and decreases the public's trust in LA's local politics. The alternative is clear and it has been demonstrated to work. The counties of Los Angeles and San Diego, the cities of San Diego, Long Beach, Sacramento, Oakland, and many others, and the state of California all use independent redistricting commissions. Combined, around 17.5 million Californians now reside in a local jurisdiction that uses an independent commission, more than the population of 46 states. Independent redistricting commissions work. First, they depoliticize the process, leading to greater public trust in the results. Multiple studies have shown that elected bodies that delegate their drawing powers to politically appointed commissions get processes that are more partisan and more political than truly independent commissions. One study during the previous redistricting cycle found that maps drawn by politically appointed commissions have, quote, the highest overall level of partisan bias, end quote, whereas maps drawn by independent commissions generate, quote, a near elimination of partisan bias, end quote. Second, and probably more importantly, independent commissions generate processes in which line drawers have the freedom to put community empowerment and public testimony front and center in their work. Free of political considerations, they can focus on what matters, honoring communities and the stories they tell about their families, their neighborhoods, and their city. Look to the city of Long Beach as an example. In its first year, the Long Beach Independent Redistricting Commission has had robust political participation, public participation. Hundreds of Long Beach residents have given public testimony or submitted written testimony. Public participation has reflected the diversity of Long Beach. It's been highly informed and well presented. Long Beach's independent commission received robust public map submissions from large advocacy organizations, from community-based organizations, from hyper-local organizations, from individuals, and from neighborhood associations. Most importantly, it appears the community trusts in the process. Large numbers of public commenters in the press have indicated trust in the Long Beach process and the city's commission, even if they do not agree with all of its decisions. On multiple occasions, the Long Beach Independent Commission received large volumes of public input on a policy choice or some other decision and changed or reversed their views and their approach in response. The system in Long Beach isn't free of problems or issues. No redistricting is, but multiple members of the public in Long Beach have noted in public comment that while the process is not perfect, it is better than the alternative. The city of Los Angeles should join the growing trend of independent commissions. This would allow subsequent Los Angeles redistricting commissions, future versions of you, to conduct their duties in a way that centers public input, prioritizes empowerment of and representation for LA's communities, and will be free of political reproach and meddling. It will make LA's communities feel invested in co-governance. It will help shape the city's future. As we stated in our letter, the perimeters of democracy should not be drawn by those in power, but by the governed. I want to end by reflecting on what you've accomplished. I'm not here to evaluate your maps or to judge specific districts. I want to highlight instead what you were able to do and how heartbreaking it will be if your maps are wiped away by City Council. You collected over 15,000 pieces of public testimony, including 8,600 pieces of written testimony, 3,400 verbal comments, and over 380 maps through 21 hearings that were open to the public. Enormous credit for this goes to you, your staff, and the community organizations you wisely chose to partner with. Your process may not have been perfect or painless, and we personally, our organization, did advocacy for changes several times. But the numbers I just provided might be the highest amount of public participation of any local jurisdiction, city or county in the state of California this year. And yet all of that may be for naught, as the City Council makes preparations to repeat its behavior from previous cycles and redraw your maps. Instead of having maps that for the next decade will be based on the extraordinary community participation, stories in the press right now indicate the City Council intends to use a City Council map that will protect some incumbents, defeat other incumbents, deter challengers, promote successors, reward political loyalty, and exact political retribution. Los Angeles deserves better. Based on all of this, California Common Cause strongly endorses the following recommendations for the City Council in the Commission's current draft report. 1, follow the example of the state of California and many counties and cities and create an independent rather than advisory Citizens Redistricting Commission. Our only edit here is that we do not recommend a Citizens Redistricting Commission, even though that word is in the name of the state's commission, because non-citizens should also have the right to serve. 2, create narrow and clear parameters for the replacement of commissioners during the redistricting process. These parameters should ensure ethical compliance, transparency, and accountability, including a provision that currently seated elected officials not be eligible for service. We endorse this as well. Our only edit here, if an independent commission is used, the strict qualification and conflict of interest criteria in the state elections code should apply, and elected officials should have zero power to remove anyone. And we endorse number 3, ban all ex parte communications between commissioners and elected city officials and members of their staff regarding redistricting. We also endorse number 8, in the year preceding the start of the redistricting process, award grants to support community-based organizations providing education to the public about redistricting. And number 9, ensure the development and launch of a starting point commission website that is operational at the start of the commission's work. We don't comment on the other recommendations, not because we're opposed, but because we're agnostic or neutral. We thank you for the thought and the courage that went into your recommendations. I appreciate your time this evening and the work you've done. I am honored to have been invited to comment to you. Thank you again.
Thank you very, very much, Jonathan, and especially for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. So thanks again. So with that, I'm going to ask that we go to comments from, I think, 4 neighborhood councils tonight, if I'm not mistaken, Ariana.
Yes, definitely 3 are for sure 4. Yes. So Rob, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce the different neighborhood councils.
Thank you very much, Ariana and Chair Ali. As you mentioned before, we are expecting to hear from about 4 different neighborhood councils this evening. We're going to hear from the Encino Neighborhood Council, the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council, the Foothill Trails Neighborhood Council, and the Reseda Neighborhood Council. So as we mentioned before, you'll each have up to 2 minutes to give your comment. So when we call on you, go ahead and unmute yourself and then we'll start your time. So our first group that we're going to hear from is the Encino Neighborhood Council. So your representative can go ahead and unmute themselves and you'll have up to 2 minutes to give your comment.
Thank you. Good evening, commission, staff. Thank you for your service. It feels kind of like a divorce. We're going to miss this. The Los Angeles City Council Redistricting Commission's map K2.5 final was approved October 20th, pretty much at the 11th hour. This will place several of our Encino residential communities, including over 10,000 residents, as well as the entire Sepulveda Basin flood control and recreation area, in a different council district from the rest of Encino. The Encino Neighborhood Council vigorously objects to this arbitrary division of Encino among 2 city council districts and implores that the city council reverse this division, thus placing the residential and commercial developed areas of Encino into the same district. Such division will be a major impediment to obtaining services for our Encino area related to airplane noise, traffic, fires in the basin, homelessness, mansionization, and maintenance issues, and much more. It's obvious many members of the commission had no familiarity with the San Fernando Valley or the Sepulveda Basin for sure. As an addendum, let me add, Encino Neighborhood Council and its members is reaching out to our adjacent neighborhood councils, and we are forming alliances to jointly work with Sepulveda Basin issues. This is an exciting development. And if anything good has come from this, that's it. Thank you for your service. Good night.
Thank you very much for the comments from the Encino Neighborhood Council. Next up, we're going to hear from the Foothill Trails Neighborhood Council. So your representative can go ahead and unmute themselves, and you'll also have up to 2 minutes to give your comment.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Kevin Davis. I'm president of Foothill Trails Neighborhood Council. I wanted to express our thanks for you listening to us. We had asked that you re-add both Shadow Hills and Latuna Canyon back into CD7, what they currently are in. And we appreciate that you listened to us and the comments of my fellow community members and made that change. We urge you to stick with that change. The communities of Latuna Canyon, Shadow Hills, and Lakeview Terrace are rural communities that share much in common and not as much as common with our more urbanized neighbors to the south. We think it's a good fit for all concerned. And we want to thank you for making that change. And we are cautiously hopeful that that change will remain. Again, thank you for your work and your service and for listening to us. And I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you again. We were just hearing from the Foothill Trails Neighborhood Council in their community impact statement. Our next neighborhood council that we're going to hear from is the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. So your representative can go ahead and unmute themselves, and you'll also have up to 2 minutes to give your statement.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time. I will be reading the Lincoln Heights CIS statement in opposition to the Commission's final map recommendation. I will be presenting the CIS in Spanish so as to not disenfranchise my Spanish-speaking community. Históricamente, la redistribución de distritos ha afectado negativamente a las comunidades de color al dividirlas y destruir la infraestructura de una comunidad que se ha estabilizado durante generaciones. Es el deseo de Lincoln Heights que se mantenga enteramente en un distrito. El alcance realizado fue insuficiente para los miembros de nuestra comunidad de Lincoln Heights, igual que otras comunidades, ya que somos de clase trabajadora y trabajamos durante el día. Existe un registro histórico y un cronograma del impacto negativo que hace la redistribución de distritos cuando los funcionarios de la ciudad no toman en consideración a los residentes de la clase trabajadora. El hecho de que personas que no fueron electas están decidiendo cómo dividir a las comunidades marginadas es más un ejemplo de la injusticia para todas las personas de la ciudad de Los Ángeles. En una democracia no nombramos, elegimos para responsabilizar a los funcionarios de la ciudad cuando sus decisiones tengan efectos negativos en los residentes de Los Ángeles. Nuestras siguientes recomendaciones. La comisión estará integrada por funcionarios electos y no designados. 2. Los mapas de división de distritos deberían ser hechos 3 años antes del momento de la redistribución. Esto es para que el público y los funcionarios puedan comprender claramente los mapas. 3. También se realizará un estudio 3 años antes de la división de distritos para estudiar la causa y los efectos de todos los aspectos de los nuevos mapas. Estos estudios serán conducidos con agencias municipales, estatales, federales y del condado. La comunidad de Lincoln Heights está opuesto al mapa presentado por la comisión que divide nuestra comunidad. Gracias por su tiempo. Atentamente, la comunidad de Lincoln Heights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. We were hearing from the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. Our final neighborhood council that we're going to hear from this evening is the Reseda Neighborhood Council. So your representative can go ahead and unmute themselves, and you'll have your 2 minutes to make your statement.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. The Reseda Neighborhood Council opposes Map K 2.5 final. It places Reseda into District 4 or 2 when we were previously parts of Districts 3 and 12. The refusal of the Commission to designate which district Reseda would be in hampered the efforts of the commissioners to advocate for our district and our neighborhood. Map K 2.5 final disenfranchises the majority of residents who currently reside in Council District 3. 100% of the residents in the new 4-2 district will have an entirely new council member who we did not elect. And for the majority of us, it pushes our opportunity to vote back until 2024, which means we could go nearly 2 terms without a vote on a council member. It's unbelievable that the Commission could avow the complete disenfranchisement of our diverse and lower income community as an acceptable cost. Map K 2.5 separates our neighborhoods from our traditional communities of interest in the West Valley and stratifies our neighborhood along poverty lines. Had it not been for the tremendous amount of public participation by our neighbors, we are certain that our new district would have been left with no representation for significant local public assets. Working class neighborhoods deserve representation just as much as our wealthier counterparts. We wholeheartedly agree with the call by the Los Angeles Times editorial board that a truly independent redistricting commission is necessary. Political self-interest superseded the needs of our communities throughout this process. In addition, the City Council must mandate a process in which all line drawing is public. Map K 2.5 originated in a private ad hoc committee that did not allow public participation, and that's an anathema to the idea of a participatory democracy. Perhaps had the process been public, these commissioners would not have been so willing to engage in our complete and total disenfranchisement. While we oppose this map for the reasons delineated above, should it remain in place, it's vital that we retain a representative voice in Warner Center, Pierce College, and the Sepulveda Basin. We also want to uplift our neighbors in Encino who wish to keep their community whole, and we are fine with the sharing arrangement for the Sepulveda Basin along the Los Angeles River, in which they would get everything south and we would get everything north, and a sharing of the Japanese gardens to the north and to the Wilderness Center to the south for Encino.
Thank you, Speaker. Your time is up. We appreciate your comment. Chair Ali, I believe that was the final neighborhood council giving CIS comments this evening.
Thank you, Rob, very, very much. And I want to thank the representatives from the 4 neighborhood councils for joining us today and providing that testimony. And I also want to thank all of the neighborhood councils throughout the city who have participated so frequently in this process. Your participation has really been helpful, and we appreciate it very, very much. So with that, I would like to open up for 30 minutes of public testimony. And so with that, Rob, can we proceed with the public testimony?
Before we proceed, let me read the items into the agenda for public comment. So agenda item number 1, discussion and possible action regarding the commission's final report and final map recommendation to the City Council. Item number 2 is approval of the meeting minutes for the meetings held on October 6th, October 9th, October 13th, October 16th, October 18th, October 19th, and October 21. Item number 3 is approve of amended and restated contracts for Lex Lingua Inc. and Heather Lynn Gonzalez reporting. And then finally, item number 4, findings to continue teleconference meetings pursuant to AB 361. Rob.
Thank you very much, Ariana. In conformity with state law AB 361 and due to concerns over COVID-19, the Los Angeles City Council Redistricting Commission meetings will be conducted entirely virtually and telephonically. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment via Zoom webinar on the items listed on the agenda should click on the raised hand function to request to speak, and you'll join our speakers list. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda may press *9 to raise their hands and join our speakers list. And as always, you can always contact us at redistricting.lacity@lacity.org. And I would like to now introduce Harit Trivedi from the City Attorney's Office to go over ground rules for public comment. Harit.
Thank you, Rob. To members of the public calling in to provide comment to the commission tonight, when it's your turn to speak, we'll announce your name, identifying information, or the last 3 digits of your phone number. Once we announce your name, identifying information, or phone number, then you're live in the meeting. It's your turn to speak. Please immediately unmute yourself. You'll have 1 minute per agenda item to speak for up to 3 minutes total. We understand that you might be listening to the broadcast of the meeting on the internet or another device. Because there's a time delay between the live meeting and the broadcast, please keep one ear on your phone so that you may hear when we call your name or identifying information, and you can immediately unmute yourself by pressing *6. Otherwise, we may think you're no longer on the line and move on to the next speaker. Also, if you're listening to the broadcast on the internet or another device, please immediately turn down the volume of that broadcast on the other device to avoid any feedback or confusion because of the time delay. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. If we are unable to tell whether you're on topic or if you're not on topic, you'll get a brief warning from me, the chair, or the executive director. And if you do not immediately get back on a topic, we'll be forced to move on to the next speaker and forfeit your time. Finally, I'd like to warn you, commissioners and members of the public, that some members of the public may choose to use modes of expression that are offensive or vulgar, including the use of racial epithets. Some of that content is First Amendment protected speech, and there's little the commission can do but hear it. Members of the public, however, may choose to turn down the volume of the broadcast if they do not wish to listen to any offensive language or vulgarities. With that, I will pass it back to the chair.
Thank you very, very much, Harit. And now, Rob, I would like to open up for 30 minutes of public testimony.
All right, Chair Ali, thank you very much. So we, as usual, we're going to go ahead and announce names of our upcoming speakers, so we give you time to make your comments. We do have multiple items on the agenda listed this evening, so we will have a stopwatch timer so that you can have up to 3 minutes, but please let us know which items you're speaking to before you begin your comments. Our first group of speakers include the following names: caller ending in 910, followed by Lionel Mares and Cheryl Holland. So our first speaker, caller ending in 910, go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have up to 1 minute to give your, tell us which items you're speaking on.
Hi, one of the many smoking guns that exposes Chairman Ali as a grandmaster of gaslighting.
Excuse me, sir, before I give you a time, I wanted to know how many items you're speaking on this evening.
Oh, just one item.
All right, you have up to a minute.
Thank you. One of the many smoking guns that exposes Chair Ali as a grandmaster of gaslighting is his hypocritical stance on incumbency. He's often said that incumbency is not part of the commission's decision-making process. He told Commissioner Goldberg, quote, "We've been very clear about not making decisions that either advantage or disadvantage an incumbent." A few days ago, he said it wasn't our job to protect elected officials, their jobs, or their political futures, but in the September 21st meeting, Chair Ali asked legal counsel if the commission is allowed to consider incumbency. After he was told that yes, they are, Chair Ali replied, quote, "The reason I ask is because I look at Map Plan C and I think it does raise questions with incumbents, and I want the commission to understand that." A few minutes later, he said to the commission, quote, "As I look at version C, I question whether or not existing incumbents will find themselves not in the district that they currently represent. I think you might want to understand that as well." So yes, the commission can consider incumbency. They just choose to ignore it when that ignorance enables them to strip Nithya Raman of her district. The gentleman from Common Cause called that courage. I would call it something else. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Our next speaker is Lionel Mares. So Lionel Mares, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you'll and tell us which item you're speaking on this evening.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. I would like to speak on item 1, please.
All right, you'll have up to a minute.
Thank you. Regarding about the draft map K2.5, I attended, I met with Nithya Raman last night, and she discussed her concerns about the unassigned districts 204 or 442 in the San Fernando Valley. And I'm a resident of the East San Fernando Valley, and I am concerned about the unintended consequences that the redistricting might have on certain communities in the San Fernando Valley and the greater Los Angeles, because I understand there are many people, the underprivileged communities, who might be the most impacted. And most of these community members are working class individuals who are not aware of what's going on with their city government. And I'm one of the few who's actively participating, and I am concerned about the impacts that underprivileged, underrepresented working class individuals might go through because of districting.
Speaker, your time is up.
Please fix it.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your comment, Speaker. Our next speaker is Cheryl Holland. Cheryl Holland, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which items you're speaking about this evening.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Holland. I'm addressing item 1, the vote on the map.
All right, you have up to a minute.
Recommendation. I'm Cheryl Holland. I'm the president of Sunset Square Neighborhood Org, and there's also an HPOZ. And we're on the west side of Sunset, just before you hit the WeHo border. So we're on the flats of Hollywood. And my entire community participated in this process in good faith, and we attended hearings, we made public comment, we submitted map comments, and we sent personal emails giving feedback to this commission. This commission was very responsive to our community and helped us get the map that right now works for our community. And we want our efforts and the results of the final map to be honored by the City Council. So thank you so much for your efforts on our behalf.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next group of speakers include the following names. Caller ending in numbers 573, followed by Lee and Cynthia Shavatal. So caller ending in phone number 573, please press *6 now to unmute yourself. And when you do, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd like to know which item you're going to speak about this evening. So once again, our next speaker is calling over the phone. Good evening. Which item are you speaking about?
Item number 1.
All right, you have up to a minute.
As Reseda Neighborhood Council noted, Fred Ali unilaterally assigned CD3 to a district with around 40% of CD3's population. He then decided that a district with around 60% of CD3's population would be either CD2 or CD4, despite it having 0% of CD2's or CD4's current residents. Ali has ignored repeated demands for explanation from the public. But finally, the draft of the final report gives a justification. To quote from page 30, the design of the valley began with the Warner Center, Tarzana, Encino, and Sherman Oaks neighborhood councils, because this district was designed starting with Warner Center and Tarzana, which anchor current District 3. This new district was designated as proposed Council District 3. That's the best you could come up with? You have to force a city council member to lose 100% of their constituents a year after they were elected because of where your design process, quote unquote, started? You're gonna have to do better than that, please. At least you were right about Warner Center being the anchor of CD3, which is why the public has been overwhelmingly against your decision.
Your time is up. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Lee. Lee, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which item you're going to speak about this evening.
Commissioners, I'm going to be speaking on items number 1 and number 2, please.
You have up to.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Lee Blumenfeld here, 30-plus year resident of Encino, U.S. Army veteran, and I have the privilege of representing the communities of Encino Park, Encino Village, and Encino Northwest communities as the elected Area 1 representative. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, all of which were severed like a useless appendage and thrown out of our Encino Neighborhood Council family, who has weathered the gerrymandered storm during the last decade of redistricting. Encino must be kept whole in CD3 with an equitable sharing agreement of the Sepulveda Basin with District 4-2. Luckily for the commission, no one needs to be the bad guy here. The neighboring NCs figured out a sharing map for you guys. Go ahead and fix it. Why is this important, you may ask? It's the same reason Encino has fought so hard to keep the basin as Reseda and Canoga are fighting to get a share of the Warner Center. Those locations greatly affect our communities. Frank, why when Encino was split, you did not quote the numerous comments stating to keep Encino together? Also, Mr. Battles, correct the record. Comments were not cut off Thursday at 5 p.m. They were cut off at Wednesday at 5 p.m., leaving less than 18 hours of public comment for a last-minute change that was never discussed in splitting Encino. I will now read you as many pieces of comments from residents who could not get in. Quote, "We're new and enthusiastic residents of Encino. This split compromises all the young families coming to this community. Carolyn and Matt, Encino Village. Splitting Encino is a poor choice in trying to satisfy building numbers for CD 4 and 2. Caroline, Encino Village. Understand, commissioners, you still have a chance to go ahead and make modifications and recommendations as notes to the city council, and that being Encino kept whole. We can balance the numbers. We have a community asset sharing with our neighborhood councils for the Sepulveda Basin that's fair, equitable, and ensure the greatest jewel of parks in the valley for all residents.
Your time is up. All right, our next speaker is Cynthia Shavado. Cynthia Shavado, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which items you're speaking on this evening.
I'm going to speak on item number 1, the approval of the map.
You'll have up to a minute.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners, and especially Commissioner Chair Fred Ali. We are so grateful in our community. I am a 20-year resident of Hancock Park and part of the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council. Grateful for how you handled this entire commission with unprecedented transparency, public input, public line dooring, and we demand that the council do the same with the map as it moves forward and oppose the motion to create some backdoor gerrymandering as we experienced 10 years ago. The process does not exist to protect existing elected officials or allow them to gerrymander the city in a manner that would carve out seats to favor the election of their partisan friends. Los Angeles needs smart problem solvers, not entitled politicians. We urge
Thank you,
you.
Speaker. Your time is up.
Okay,
Thank you very
thank
much
you.
for your comment. Our next group of speakers include the following names: Sam Uretsky, Angela Ju, and DJ Frank. So Sam Uretsky, you're our next speaker. Go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which items you're speaking on this evening.
Hi, Rob. I'm speaking on item 1.
All right, you have up to a minute.
Okay, Sam Uretsky, I'm a board member of the Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association. I suspect you thought your work would be mostly completed. Given your strict adherence to your core principles, you probably expected at least a thank you from the City Council and a broad endorsement of your painstaking and excellent work. Instead, Council President Nuri Martinez, along with members Rahman and Krikorian, have denounced your process and your results as unjust, inequitable, and disenfranchising. Dissatisfied with their own district boundaries on the final map, they spew falsehoods about the commission and its work product. They mean to redraw the final map to suit themselves as they believe themselves to be above your process and above the electorate they are meant to serve. Please tell the public that political hacks are attempting to hijack the final plan and subvert it to serve the interests of this gang of 3. You enjoy broad support, and your efforts to keep the record straight going forward is necessary and appreciated. I applaud you all and the final plan. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comment. Our next speaker is Angela Ju. So Angela, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which item you're going to speak about this evening. So once again, our next speaker is Angela Ju, J-O-O.
Hello, can you hear me?
There you are, loud and clear.
Hello?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, my name is Angela Ju. I'm a long-term resident of Rampart Village.
Sorry, before you speak, which items, how many items are you speaking on this evening?
Number
so I can give
1.
you a time.
Sure,
right,
number 1. Yes. Can you hear me? Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. I'm a long-term resident and a homeowner for Rampart Village. You guys put Rampart Village as CD1. We are a very diverse group of people, Asians, Hispanics, well, mostly Asian. And we did not vote for Gil Cedillo, District 1. We want to stay in CD13. I'm also part of a group called Chateau Alliance, which is composed of homeowners and residents of 75 persons. I'm also part of the homeowner association. So please put us back to CD13. We oppose being CD part of 1. We have nothing to do with CD1. We're a residential area and we're a lot of homeowners and residential. So please keep us in CD13 and do not split us up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment, speaker. Our next speaker is DJ Frank. DJ Frank, go ahead and unmute yourself and you'll tell us which items you're speaking about this evening.
Hello, Derek Frank, RNC Prez, speaking for myself on item 1. A final thank you to the few commissioners who took their role as objective arbiters seriously and who fought hard to create a map that was just, fair, and equitable. Sadly, despite the claims of Commissioners Ali and Cardenas, the end work product of this commission was not transparent, equitable, or just. Just by seeing how 150,000 residents are unjustifiably disenfranchised to protect the political power base and ambitions of one person, the incumbent CD3 council member, it puts the lie to this statement. And despite this inequity being pointed out multiple times by multiple people, only a totally weak sauce explanation was offered in the report for this injustice that disenfranchised 150,000 working class and people of color. Shame, shame. One can only hope that in the future, a truly independent commission structure is established as proposed by the earlier speaker. Of course, part of the problem lies with the fact that for the size and the population, LA City has far too few council members. This concentration of power in so few hands is simply a recipe for disaster and corruption, and we really need to look at doubling or tripling the number of council members and consolidating support staff to multi-district facilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next group of speakers are going to include the following names. Our next speaker is identified as Tri4T, followed by Madison 2015 and Owen Smith. So our next speaker identified as Tri4T, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which items you're going to speak about on the agenda this evening.
Number 1.
All right, you have up to a minute.
Clara Solis,
Numerous CD14 Highland Park residents called in and wrote to the Redistricting Commission asking that the final map retain the current boundaries for CD14. Although many residents had initially requested that Highland Park be contained all within CD14, when the first version of map 2.5 placed 75% of Highland Park in CD1, residents asked that the Highland Park Senior Center, tiny homes, and all of the businesses on York remain in CD14. The commission then in their final map indicated a desire to honor this request and move the boundaries except for the south side of York Boulevard. Unfortunately, because it involves splitting census tracts, the commission indicated the city council would need to do that. We are concerned, however, that this no mention is made of this in the final report. And the final map still shows the south side of York is in CD1. Please see that the businesses on York all remain within CD14. It will be a disservice to our business
Thank
community.
you, Speaker. Your time is up. Hate to interrupt you, but we want to move through our speakers list. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Madison 2015. Go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know which items you're going to speak about this evening.
Sorry, my name was left logged in. My name is Jessica Panduro. I'll be speaking on item 1.
You have up to a minute.
Thank you. I want to say thank you, commissioners, for your tireless work, early Saturday mornings, and your community engagement, and just being able to listen to communities who came here, who advocated for their communities. Myself, being part of the East Side, we are very thankful of your incorporation of Lincoln Heights. I know that there's a lot of work that needs to move forward to unify and strengthen the East Side, but I'm looking forward in the next 10 years, right, to do the unification of Lincoln Heights. But for all, just want to say thank you. And I appreciate that, again, throughout this time, y'all were uplifting communities' voices and then taking every single community into consideration.
Okay, thank you very much, Speaker, for your comments. Our next speaker is Owen Smith. Owen Smith, go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know which item you're going to speak about this evening.
Item 1.
All right, you have up to a minute.
My name is Owen Smith, and I live in the Brookside area of Greater Wilshire. This is my 5th redistricting and the most transparent. In this redistricting, we were able to testify, hear testimony, see the deliberation and stress involved in the commission's effort to balance the required elements for each district. It is worth noting that each council district, as well as a number of other elected officials, had appointees on the commission. I find it particularly distressing that 3 council members apparently have been affected with Trump's entitlement malady and have seen fit to try to undo the results of the commission's hard work. They seem to view their election to serve as a mandate to rule. Their motion for an ad hoc committee is, in my opinion, an effort to overturn the will of the people. It is a bad idea. No council member lost a job, but 2 were given new opportunities and a new configuration. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for your comment, Speaker. Our next group of speakers include the following names: Art, followed by Rob Q. Nadanan, and Zerly Morales. So Art, go ahead and unmute yourself. You'll have up to 1 minute. You can unmute yourself and let us know which items you're speaking on this evening.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
I'll be speaking on item 1.
All right, you have up to a minute.
First, I just want to note that the only happy callers tonight have been from rich areas. The only support has come from Larchmont and Brookside, as well as a noted outspoken segregationist from Hancock Park, who we've heard from many times before, and then everyone else has been against it. Also, yes, the commission should be fully independent, but its grossest failures, the things that led 6 commissioners to vote against the final map, are squarely on Fred Ali's shoulders. If he hadn't made the decision not to label CD2 and CD4 and hadn't led the steamrolling of Map L in favor of a map that creates a newly widely hated West Valley district that no one asked for, the commission may have ended up with a map that was approved by a 21-0 vote. One lie Fred has really harped on recently about the new West Valley district, the Los Angeles Times quoted him as saying earlier this week, the assertion that this map concentrates poverty in certain communities is patently false. Yet the draft of the final report directly refutes Fred's statement. It mentions that a commission decision about this new West Valley district was made in recognition of demographic data and public testimony suggesting that this new district includes socioeconomically disadvantaged neighborhoods. So either the commission considered demographic data and public testimony that was patently false, or Fred Ali is lying. I wonder which it is.
Thank you, Speaker. Your time is up. All right, our next speaker is Rob Q. Nadanan. Go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know which items you're speaking about this evening.
Hello, Mr. Battles. It's Rob Kwan. I'd like to speak on items 1 and 3.
You'll have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. For item 2, pertains to your contracts, and it's good to see you getting some of these things out there because I don't know if you saw, but yesterday Councilmember Krikorian introduced a motion asking for disclosure on how you've spent your budget. As a commission, you haven't talked about that since the end of July. I find it particularly weird that the report makes no mention of that $45,000 undercount analysis that you put money out for. So it would be great to hear, what the status of that is, if that money went to waste or if it's coming, when we can expect it. For the other item, I just want to say, Chair Ali, I noticed that you haven't spoken to Nuri's office in 2 weeks. She burned you. I can tell that much. I don't know if it was just a power play or she's also just mad because you didn't shamelessly advance that map she tried to put out there back on the 16th. I hope you blow the whistle, man. I didn't like your map, but she definitely did you dirty. I'd like to thank the commission staff and leadership for ensuring 2 important issues were addressed in your report: independent redistricting and council expansion. Without the latter, the former is simply a half measure. Particular thanks to Commissioner Diaz for putting that report together. That's something that would take the CLA's office months, and that's all if Nuri Martinez would ever schedule it. I hope you do approach the issue with some urgency and what you lean on council with, because we need to act sooner than 2031. As the letter recently sent to you notes, that you are allowed to do redistricting more frequently. We have the census post enumeration coming out next year. So if this is an unrepresentative government, why should we wait a decade to fix it? I hope you all openly support this recommendation, even if you intend to vote against the majority report. I thank you all for your time and efforts in this process. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Our next speaker is Zaralee Morales. So Zaralee Morales, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which items you're speaking on this evening.
Hello, I'm talking on item 1. I want you to keep
You have up to a minute.
Yes, I want you to keep USC and Expo Park together in District 9. It is very sad to see how some commissioners see this as a political game and do not realize how their decision will affect the working poor class in the City 9. We are African Americans living in South LA, not only in Latinos who live and work together to improve our lives. It's very sad to see Commissioner Valerie is selfish just thinking of her African American community in City 8. Latinos also have a voice and vote, and we contribute and make the contribution to the economy of South Los Angeles. District 8 has the Crenshaw Corridor and many wealthy residents. Please keep USC and Expo Park together in City 9. Thank you very much for your hard work. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Speaker. Our next group of speakers include the following. Caller ending in number 352, followed by caller ending in number 169. So caller ending in, I think we may have lost that. So our next speaker is going to be the following folks. Caller ending in 169, then Punpavid Herabat, and Jane, followed by Jane Usher. So caller ending in number 169, please press *6 now to unmute yourself and let us know which items you're going to be speaking about this evening.
Estoy hablando del artículo 1.
Okay.
Quiero que mantengan juntos Expo Park en el Distrito 9. Somos afroamericanos y latinos que vivimos y trabajamos para mejorar nuestras vidas y no queremos que muevan los motores económicos de nuestro distrito. No separen USC y Expo Park. Queremos que permanezcan juntos como han estado en el Distrito 9. Este no es un juego de que te quito, me das, me lo quitaste hace 10 años. Ya estuvo bueno. Estamos hablando de vidas y futuros de gente latina y afroamericana viviendo en el Distrito 9. Nosotros somos gente trabajadora y votantes en ese distrito. Y es necesario que nos mantengan a nosotros con estos motores económicos para que sigamos saliendo adelante. Este no es un juego político donde los comisionados se van por un lado o por el otro. Estamos hablando de futuro de clase trabajadora, pobre. Gracias por su trabajo. Agradezco a todos. Yo sé que no es fácil. Buen día.
We appreciate your comment, Speaker. Our next speaker is Punpavid Herabat. So Punpavid Herabat, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which items you're going to speak about this evening.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. I'd like to speak to item 1, please.
All right, you have up to a minute.
Hi, so I represent the Thai community and like to say that we're satisfied with this current map. I'd like to thank the commission for amending the CD13 map the way it is in this final K2.5 draft map. This is because all the ethnic enclaves in CD13 are kept whole, such as Thai Town, Historic Filipino Town, and Little Armenia. And also equally important is because Las Feliz is not included in CD13. This makes perfect sense as Las Feliz is an area comprised of affluent homeowners whose interests are very different from the majority of the immigrant constituents and stakeholders in the CD13, who are on the contrary, mostly renters, low-income workers, and small mom and pop store owners. By excluding Las Feliz from CD13, ethnic enclaves will not face gentrification and their voices will be better represented and businesses in Thai Town will be better preserved and promoted. Thank you all so much, commissioners, for your hard work, and please keep CD13 as it is in this.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speakers are Jane Usher and Kristen Stavola. So Jane Usher, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which items you're going to speak about this evening.
Jane Usher here. I'm hoping to speak on item 1.
All right, you have up to a minute.
I live in Windsor Square in Greater Wilshire. I'm also a former city commissioner and employee. Your commission filled me with hope. You honored the Voting Rights Act. You placed neighborhood councils and communities of interest together. You worked in full public view, and we participated in unprecedented numbers. Your commission enabled me to suspend disbelief. No, this is not a corrupt city. I have therefore been shattered by the swift backlash from our council president. I refuse to believe that she intends to wipe the slate clean of your work or that she wants a self-interested city council to redraw your lines. We're tired of corruption. We're tired of elected officials that serve themselves rather than us. Please stand tall, commissioners. You made us proud. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, speaker. Our next group of speakers include the following names: Kristen Stavola, Anita, and Adina. So Kristen Stavola, you're our next speaker. You should be able to unmute yourself now. And when you do, let us know which items you're speaking about this evening.
Hi guys, it's Kristen Stavola from Laurel Canyon. I'm addressing item 1.
You have up to a minute.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to each and every one of you who helped our community. We are not a community that is actually represented by a neighborhood council. The Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council tried to divide us down the middle early on in the process, and this commission listened to our concerns about fire safety, and you helped rectify that situation. Jackie Goldberg doesn't even know we exist. Jackie Goldberg, I'm looking right at you and you've been smirking and you've just been so happy with yourself. Well, you destroyed the Hollywood community by not defending it when Mitch O'Farrell came for Hollywood and Sunset Boulevard. And that's on you, because all of these communities, we need our exits out of the hills in case of fires. And you decided that wasn't important. Well, we are grateful to the community, for the commission, that for the commission members that saw it as an important issue. Thank you.
Speaker, your time is up. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Anita. Anita, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us which item you're speaking about.
Thank you. I would like to speak on item 1. First, I would like to say thank you. I would like to say thank you to all the commissioners for all their time and the service to the people of Los Angeles. Neighborhoods are the fabric that unite a city. People feel pretty good about where they live. That one area of the city has a greater population of other Latino, Asian, Black, are the choices that the residents choose to live in. It is a community where they feel comfortable, can afford, and benefit from. Who are we to say what number of these groups need to be in each district to be even-handed and who gets elected to a position in government? That some council members will have to represent a new area might be a breath of fresh air for them and for the residents. Hasn't there been enough unethical, unprincipled, and hypocritical behavior in Los Angeles city government, that concern for them should be at the bottom of the list of how you redistrict Los Angeles. You've done a wonderful job. Don't let them browbeat you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Our next speaker is Adina. Adina, go ahead and unmute yourself. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know which items you're speaking on this evening.
Hi, I'm speaking on item number 1.
You have up to a minute.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everybody who participated in this process and for everybody trying to stick to principles. But it's not easy and it can't be perfect. And I do really want to say thank you for recognizing the Jewish community as a community that has been persecuted and for keeping us together from Westwood to Hancock Park. But I don't believe that it necessarily needs to stay exactly like this if improvements do need to be made to help other communities, especially our brothers and sisters of the Armenian community, who do also have a story similar to the Jewish community. So we do raise their voice as well and thank the commission for doing this in a transparent way, more than I've seen in my 20-some years in Los Angeles. So thank you. And I hope that we won't be divided so much anymore as this process continues. Please, City Council.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for your comments. Chair Ali, that concludes 30 minutes of public comments this evening.
So thank you very, very much, Rob. And as I've said so frequently, you've done such an excellent job in managing our public testimony. So thanks again. So thanks again for that. So we'll bring public testimony to a close. I once again want to thank people who testified tonight and for the many people who testified throughout this process. It's been a remarkable exercise in civic participation. So thank you very, very much for that. So Ariana, can we read the first agenda item back into the record, please?
Item number 1, discussion and possible action regarding the Commission's final report and final map recommendation to the City Council.
So thank you, Ariana. And as I stated at the start of tonight's meeting, our purpose tonight, our main purpose tonight, is to approve our final report to the City Council. This report, as I think everyone knows, must be submitted to the City Council tomorrow. So the time is now. I want to briefly provide an overview of that report, and then I am going to ask the Commission for a motion to approve the report, and then we'll have some discussion. So that's how I want to proceed throughout this first agenda item. So, but a couple introductory comments, if I might. So, first of all, this report and the map that was approved at our last meeting is, as you all know, a culmination of 12 months of very, very hard and committed work on the part of this commission and countless hours of public testimony. And I think it's worth noting that this process occurred in the midst of a pandemic that put tremendous constraints on our process. And it also was a process that was attended to 5 census data that was delayed by over 5 months. So my point is that there were many challenges thrown our way. But despite this commission continued to do its work. Our staff continued to do this work in a very credible manner. What I'm particularly proud of is the fact that this commission early on adopted core values that they wanted to see guide our work. And as I look back, those core values have been maintained throughout our deliberation. We also adopted principles that would guide the most important part of our work, the map drawing, and those principles were adhered to throughout the process. So I think we can all feel, hopefully we can all feel very, very, very good about this. And despite the constraints that I talked about, doing this in the midst of a pandemic, we engaged more people in Los Angeles during this process, some 14,000 people, a number greater than what we saw in the 2011 redistricting process. So again, something I think that we can all be very, very proud of. Now, there's no map is perfect, and certainly this map is not a perfect map. But there are some things that I'm very proud of, and I think this commission should be very, very proud of. And I just want to mention a couple of those things. And many of these things are, of course, identified in the introductory summary of the report that is before you tonight. So first of all, in recognition of the growth of population in the San Fernando Valley, which now constitutes 38% of the city's population, for the first time, 5 council districts situated entirely in the San Fernando Valley were created, with one bridge district crossing the Santa Monica Mountains. Early on in our process, we heard many people testify in favor of creating districts unified in the valley, and we were able to do that. Probably one of the most important things that I want to lift up, and I hope we all are very, very proud of, is that for the first time after 20 years of trying, this map provides Koreatown in one council district. It finally unifies Koreatown in one council district. And I know in the beginning of this process, many people said, very difficult to do, you're not going to be able to do it. Well, this commission was able to do that. And again, something that we should be very, very proud of. A third thing that I'd like to point to is African-American and Latino political voice was maintained in this mapping process. And as is pointed out so well in the report, in some cases strengthened in compliance with the Voting Rights Act. So again, something I think we can all be very, very proud of. Many communities of interest, such as Chinatown, Little Ethiopia, Little Tokyo, Thai Town, and diverse Jewish neighborhoods were kept whole and intact, unified as part of this process. Again, something we can lift up and I think be very, very proud of. And finally, I want to lift up the fact that we were able to significantly reduce the number of neighborhood councils that had been previously divided, and something again that I think we can be very, very proud of. But you know, as I said earlier, no map is going to be perfect, and we heard some of that during public testimony today. In a city as large as Los Angeles, some people are going to be satisfied with the map, other people are disappointed. In a way, that's to be expected, given the diversity of our population and the challenges that are always part of the redistricting process. But on balance, I'm very proud of this map. I'm very proud of the report that we present today for your approval. Most importantly, I'm very proud of the work of this commission and the work of our staff. And with that, I want to turn to our executive director, Frank Cardenas, who has done such an outstanding job. And I want Frank to provide an overview of the report that's before you today. So Frank.
Chair Ali, can I make a point of order?
Oh, sure. Commissioner Kanye, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to mention 2 things. You had mentioned, and the speaker from Common Cause mentioned 14,000 participants. Mm-hmm. I'd just like to point out on page 5 of the majority report, it says 6,300. As a first point. Second point is you had just spoken about this is the first time we've had 5 districts completely in the valley. Currently 2, 3, 6, 7, and 12 are all in the valley. So we currently do have 5 districts that are completely in the valley.
Thank you, Commissioner Kanye. Frank, do you want to continue?
Sure. Mr. Chair, thanks very much. First, I'll just give a very brief overview of the report. Why should I lie? I'm just going to go through the table of contents. I trust that in the couple of days that the commission and the public have had to review the report, that you've had the opportunity to take it in and to see and both in broad strokes, but also with some granularity, what a Herculean effort and achievement this commission has been able to accomplish in the light of day. First, there is the summary and the recommendations, which the chair has largely gone over, which feature some of the more amazing accomplishments of this commission. Let me suggest any one of those accomplishments that you all have achieved, that the commission that the chair just itemized, in and of itself would be an amazing feat, and each of which is unprecedented. But commissioners, to do all of them together at the same time is truly remarkable. And I commend you, and I'm in awe of what you all have been able to accomplish through your hard work. The charter requirements and some of the historical background behind the assemblage and the formation of this particular commission and its iterations over the last approximately 12 months are the second part of the 34-page final report. That is to say that the 34-page description of the report, the totality of the report, is in the order of 555 pages, as you probably noticed. That does not include the data that will be transmitted to the council, which will include all of the public testimony that was submitted before this commission over the last 12 months, and what will be forthcoming probably not until next week when our court reporter has the total package together, but for the first time a transcription of all of the public testimony that was provided to this Citizens Commission. The third section is your work plan and your guiding principles, including, I'm proud to say, a rather detailed articulation of your map development protocols that were deliberated by you in August in the light of day and unanimously adopted by you, and then adhered to by yourself and your staff in the development of what is ultimately the recommended K25 final map. And then a review of the redistricting criteria and the legal issues, which I implore everybody to please take a good hard look at, because there, I hope clearly set forth are those criteria that actually are supposed to be adhered to by any entity undertaking redistricting, the criteria that this commission followed. And then following that is a review of the commission's recommended plan. What are the particular features of this plan? And it goes regionally, as you did, Commission, regionally, looking at the issues that were presented by the data and the issues that were presented and uplifted by the public testimony, up to the point that the regions did their work, and then the recommendations that came from the regions, the many maps that this commission saw consistent with and in adherence with your map development protocols, maps A through K, and then of course also L. The fifth section or the sixth section is recommendations to the City Council and to the next commission in whatever form it might take, and that was principally the work of the chair. If there are any particular questions about the report, I'm happy to go into that. But I would like to take this opportunity, if the chair and members will indulge me, some personal observations. First, it goes without saying, myself aside, your staff has been absolutely amazing. I mean, there is the professionalism and the amazing effort that Ariana and Rafael and Rob and Tanea and Oscar and the other several members who have come in and out of your staff providing service. There's what you've seen and perhaps what you've been able to glean from the process and from the work product. It pales in comparison, let me suggest, to the actual depth and breadth and the core of their commitment to you and to your success, because they, to a person, every moment understood that they were serving the people of the city of Los Angeles through your good offices. And it's been a privilege for me to be associated with your staff. Secondly, a point of extremely personal privilege. I would not be let in the house tonight if I did not thank my family for giving me the opportunity to support your success in this historic, unprecedented effort. My wife and our 3 kids, particularly the 2 that still live in home, they haven't seen as much of me. They're not complaining. I am. So fair warning to my kids. Dad's coming back, and we got some work to do. All right. I also want to thank my colleagues at the California Fair Political Practices Commission, whose work has meant so much to me these last 4 years that I've had the privilege to serve up there. They haven't seen a whole lot of me, and when they have, I haven't been entirely on my game because I think my focus has been properly with you. I want to also thank 2 people whose advice and counsel were very important to me and informed my support of your efforts since I've been working for you since March 17. And one of them is Kathy Fang of Common Cause, who I got to know 20 years ago when she was with APALC, now Asian Americans Advancing Justice. And Kathy was very important in reinforcing my conviction that if I was going to do this, this had to be a completely transparent process. And so, Kathy, wherever you are, I want to thank you for reminding me of how important that must be, because I can see now and I appreciate now how important that actually has proven to be. And I also want to thank Kathy for being there 20 years ago and helping me to appreciate the struggles and the dreams of the people of the community of Koreatown. What a joy it is for me to see what this commission has been able to accomplish with respect to that proud and beautiful community that has worked so hard for a map that in that part of the city looks the way that it does. And also Alejandra Ramirez Zarate, who at the time was with the Advancement Project and is now with the League of Conservation Voters, because it was through her advice and counsel that I had reinstilled in me the conviction that transparency is not enough. The people have got to be involved. And in a COVID environment where we necessarily must Zoom, it's the community-based organizations that in a Trumpian environment with the rug pulled under them and the enumeration ended early with no notice, typical of that prior administration, that it was the community-based organizations that worked so hard to reach, particularly the hard to reach communities which abound Los Angeles. They were in the best position to help this commission not only get the word out that it was time to do redistricting and that this commission was committed to doing it right, but it was also time to speak the people's truth to the power that this commission has vested in the charter to make its recommendations to the council. And so I'm very, very appreciative for that. I want to thank the chair for giving me the latitude and the freedom to do this job in the way that I was convinced after having done it the first time for the first Citizens Commission 20 years ago, and after having watched with some horror the debacle, in my opinion, that was the redistricting process and result of 10 years ago, much of which you have sought to rectify, because the chair recommended that you hire me, notwithstanding two conditions basically that I placed on him. One was that I could not or would not do this unless this was an impeccably transparent process. And he assured me that it would be, and he's given me the freedom to support you in making sure that it has been an unprecedentedly transparent process. And second, he supported me throughout in my insistence that nobody, no commissioner, and respectfully, no member of the council would tell me who to hire. And I have always appreciated that, that latitude. Finally, I want to suggest in support of your amazing accomplishment, something that's on the very first page. I think it's very meaningful, and it really goes to the heart of your work. The last paragraph of this transmittal letter that I'll be delivering to the council tomorrow. Commissioners, redistricting is a complex and sometimes contentious journey. Yet without it, our democracy does not work. The hours-long meetings and painstaking attention to details, the collaboration and compromise, the satisfaction and sometimes the anger are all part of the price we pay for democracy. The commission worked with a deep sense of responsibility to the people of our city and a willingness to pay that price. We are honored to have served our city and our nation. Why do I end by suggesting that you and your staff have served not just the city and the nation? It's because, let me suggest that anywhere that democracy is practiced, enforced, and protected and advanced, as you have done here, consistent with the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the city, Charter Section 204, it is a matter of national concern, particularly as our democratic institutions have been under fire and attack these last several years. And so it gets contentious, it gets messy. Democracy sometimes is a contact sport. I've been accused of creating the whitest district in the history of the city. We all got to do what we all got to do, but we did it, I know, in good faith with the best intents in a tough situation, and we did it out in the open. But there are two areas where I believe that hyperbole went extended into the realm of counterfactualism. And so one last time, I want to set the record straight with respect to two particular critiques of the process and the product of your commission. One, the suggestion that in some way, because you are all unelected, at least in your capacities as commissioners, that you have somehow also been a part of and driven, manifested an undemocratic process. Let me suggest that few things are as democratic as the people going over the heads of the politicians and determining what the Constitution is going to say. That's exactly what the people of the city did in 1999, when they went over the heads of the 15 at the time, and they said, no, you're not going to do it behind closed doors. You are going to receive the carefully considered recommendations of a citizens commission that is going to employ and stick to traditional redistricting criteria. And they are all laid out in section 204. And you have done that. And so redistricting properly done in accordance with 204, the way that you've done it is completely, highly democratic, because 204 was instituted not by politicians, not by a clique or a faction. It was instituted by the people of the city themselves. Secondly, as difficult as redistricting is, few things are as painful as to see voters disassociated from the people that they voted for. And so the issue of disenfranchisement has been raised. But it's been raised, however, as a critique, suggesting that somehow the work and the result of this commission is somehow undermined, impure, because there has been disenfranchisement. Well, let me suggest, commissioners, redistricting has existed for well over 100 years. Its roots are in the 14th Amendment. Districts across the nation have been, in some cases, entirely, completely transplanted in order for the 14th Amendment principle of redistricting, particularly as tweaked by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, compels. Commissioners, members of the public, if disenfranchisement were a bar to redistricting, there wouldn't be a single Voting Rights Act district in the nation. There wouldn't be a Voting Rights Act district in Alabama. There wouldn't be one in Mississippi. There wouldn't be one in Detroit. There wouldn't be one in the District of Columbia. There wouldn't be one in Oakland. There wouldn't be one in San Antonio. Council District 6, the council president, her district exists because redistricting 20 years ago, following the data, particularly a population explosion in the San Fernando Valley, not unlike what this commission has responded to in the last 10 years. Council District 6 was moved from its anchor in Venice all the way to the middle of the beautiful San Fernando Valley. Complete dislocation. Council District 1, it wouldn't even exist were it not for the fact that the Department of Justice in the 1980s had to sue an all-white male council because the council back then would not adhere to the Voting Rights Act. And so rather than get slaughtered in court by the federal government, the city council agreed to move Council District 1, the late great Howard Finn's district, from the San Fernando Valley over to the east side, a total dislocation. Disenfranchisement of voters, as difficult as it is, has never been a bar to redistricting. And the disenfranchisement of voters for that reason is not among the several criteria that the law, particularly the law of the city, Charter Section 204, compels this commission to adhere to. And so as painful a truth as that is, I think it's important for all of us to understand that as messy as redistricting can be, democracy sometimes is messy. But democracy suggests, in fact, it compels that this be a nation of laws, not of men. And so the law of the city has dictated the way that redistricting is done. And this commission has followed the federal law and the law of the city in Charter Section 204. And for that, merely for adhering to the law as a baseline, but then everything else that you all have accomplished is absolutely remarkable. And it's been the privilege of my professional life to support your success. Thank you for hiring me and keeping me on.
So thank you very, very much, Frank, and really appreciate that. And I think I speak for the whole commission when I say we really appreciate the work you have done over these 12 months. Frank, a question came up, I think by one of our speakers in public testimony about the undercount analysis. And do you want to just briefly note where that's at? Because it's something we committed to doing, and it's been difficult getting it done, but I think we do have an update on that.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It has been very difficult to get it done, but the good people at the Advancement Project have gotten it done. It arrived today, and so it will be included as appendix, I believe it's N, N as in new or Nevada to the report. It will be, I don't know, Ariana, if we've yet been able to provide a link to this.
Not yet, just got it, so I can send it out to the commissioners after our meeting and post it.
But as just very briefly, because you gave me great liberty just now, just very briefly, we have suggested all along, no undercount analysis is going to tell us to what extent Angelenos were undercounted. What it could tell us, and what this report from Advancement Project does tell us, is that there are certain statistical variables and indices that historically correlate with undercount. Every time there's a census, right? 2 years later, a year and a half, 2 years later, the Census Bureau does the post-enumeration survey. And that is where they really get into the granularity and as best they can try to determine, can we, census, quantify undercount or overcount here or there? Well, this commission obviously couldn't wait for that. And so you saw fit to commission Advancement Project to be able to do this work. And what they have found is, in fact, there is substantial reason to believe that in some parts of the city more than others, in fact, there is substantial reason to believe Angelenos were undercounted by the prior administration when it did its, respectfully from my personal perspective, rather slipshod enumeration here in the city of Los Angeles, where people were terrified away from answering the door when someone comes and says, "I'm from the government, how many people live here?" And so what the Advancement Project is suggesting, not surprisingly, yes, there is substantial reason to believe through their statistical methodology, which mirrors that of the great Paul Ong, Professor Paul Ong, UCLA, who educated all of us on the undercount very early in your work, I believe in April, using a methodological approach very similar, almost identical to what Dr. Ong was able to do for the county several weeks ago. They have concluded, yes, it's highly likely. Angelenos were undercounted, and in some areas of the city more than others. And those areas tend to be where we thought it would be because of pre-existing socioeconomic conditions here in the city of Los Angeles. And those districts happen to be 9 and 8 and 1 and 13. And to a lesser extent, certainly 6, 7, 10, 15, 13.
Thank you very, very much, Frank. So with one of the things I also want to call to the attention of the commissioners is that you'll notice in section 6 of the report, we make recommendations to the city council, as well as recommendations to the future redistricting commission 10 years in the future. And one of the recommendations that appears is a recommendation with respect to the number of council districts within the city of Los Angeles. And I want to thank Commissioner Diaz, who devoted a lot of time and research into this recommendation. And Commissioner Diaz, I wondered if you would just briefly comment on that recommendation.
Sure, very briefly, because my internet is unstable. What I sought to do was to empirically assess how the city of Los Angeles fared in comparison to other cities in the county, the top 5 most populous cities in the state, and then in the nation with respect to the ratio of residents to council members. And what I found is that the city of Los Angeles trails at all 3 levels. And if we think about the peer group that is most similar to the city of Los Angeles, it would be the city of Chicago and New York City, both of which have 50 or 51 council districts. Now, that's likely politically unfeasible and is not even open, given that we've had 15 council districts for a century. And so what I sought to ascertain is how do we get closer to better representation? One of the things that was very difficult through this redistricting is that in many ways the map did draw itself. And the map drew itself for all the reasons we've been saying the last few months, but also because there's only 15 districts. And so there's one district in particular that needs people. And there's no other place for it to get people than by going north. There's also other districts and communities that want to be made whole that simply can't. And so ultimately, the only way to ensure that the contours of the city's diverse 99 neighborhood councils and 114 neighborhoods as defined by the LA Times can get better representation is to expand the council. And the final piece of analysis, and I think this is really important, it's not just the city of Los Angeles that suffers from a very high ratio of residents to council districts. It's also the county of Los Angeles, the largest jurisdiction in the nation, which only has 5 members on the board of supervisors. So where the city of Los Angeles is at a further disadvantage is when compared to other large mid-cities in the county who have better ratios. So here, residents of the city of Los Angeles are underrepresented, and then they're doubly underrepresented because they suffer from a 1 to 2 million residents at the county level. So ultimately, when we think about what type of representation matters in all the community of interest testimony, it's really important to think about how we can move forward to better achieve a just recovery for everybody, but also more responsive government.
Thank you very, very much, Commissioner, and thanks for your work on that recommendation. So with that, what I would like to do in order to continue our discussion in a more structured sort of way is I would like to invite a motion to approve the final report to the Los Angeles City Council.
So moved.
So we have
And second.
we have a motion and a second. So let's open up now for discussion. And one of the things I'd like to start with, I want to be responsive to Commissioner Kanya's earlier comment. And Commissioner Katz, I thought I would call on you because if I misspoke, I apologize. But I want to respond. Go back to you, Commissioner Katz, as our regional lead in the San Fernando Valley for our ad hoc work. And do you want to speak to the issue of the districts within the San Fernando Valley?
Sure, Mr. Chair. If you misspoke, it's because you were repeating what I had said. Never a good idea. But the mantra in the Valley for as long as I can remember has always been 5 seats totally within the Valley. And recognizing that the Valley by population is actually closer to 6 seats. 5.7, if I remember correctly. There are 5 seats that are in the Valley, but we also have 2 seats that went over the hill. Those seats have been eliminated in terms of going over the hill. And the only seat that goes outside of the Valley is the 6th seat, which achieves that 5.7 ratio because it's a majority Valley district. So for the first time, there are the 5 districts within the Valley plus the 6th seat, which is a Valley majority district.
Thank you, Commissioner Katz. And I also, Commissioner Kanya, you questioned the 15,000 number I gave you. That number is a combination of individuals who participated in public hearings, as well as individuals who submitted written testimony. So it's a combination of those 2 things that gets us to the 15,000. And if by chance I misspoke there, Raphael, do you want to confirm as our outreach director whether or not I've said that correctly?
Yes, I mean, we can go a little bit more specific. We can say the total participants have been over 6,500. Total speakers, which is actually a part of the 6,500, has been over 1,400, 1,472 to be exact. We've had over, well, right now we're almost at 90 total hours of meetings and hearings. We have received total testimony submitted via email mail and letters, that is 8,600, 8,623 actually. Community impact statements, 44, although that would probably rise because we heard 4 tonight, so that's 48. And map submitted is 389. So if we were to count all these community inputs via spoken and written testimony, they would equal 15,590.
So thank you, Raphael. And again, Commissioner Kanya, thank you for your question. I want to be as accurate as we can in explaining this information. So we have a motion and a second. So we're in the discussion. Commissioner Kanya.
So I was just going to say, I would recommend then on page 5, we expand to Mr. Gonzalez's comments regarding that to make sure that it ties out.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. Thank you, staff, for all of your hard work and report. I was wondering, when we do recommendations to City Council, there's been a couple of things around census blocks that only the council can do. And I've been getting a lot of phone calls from people in CD10 who are petrified that they need representation. And so Little Ethiopia asks that in our recommendation to council that we highlight with Carthay square or circle that the census block still needs to be split because there's no one there to say that in the meeting. So we want to make sure that you can put that in the report. And also, I had a phone call today. They actually called my church, and so they call my church all the time. So one was from the Koreatown Neighborhood Council. They just asked that we put explanation that we say Koreatown as whole, that we are meaning the Koreatown Task Force map, which is different than the Koreatown Neighborhood Council map, so that future commissions and that the city council would know that there was a distinction what we mean by Koreatown being whole. And so I just wanted to highlight those two things. If we could just put them in the report or put them at the footnote or just highlight them, especially for a CD10, being that we won't have a representative in the room.
Really good question and comments, Commissioner Anderson. Frank, can you quickly comment on how we'll handle some of these matters in terms of notes to the council, and I think primarily to Dave Eloy?
We will make sure that they are incorporated into the body of the report, and I will personally commit to bird dogging Mr. Ely and others to make sure that this is integrated into the process moving forward.
Okay, additional comments from commissioners. Commissioner Kanya, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, in the spirit of Reverend Anderson's request about census block, I also had a request which I thought was very reasonable from Christina Rowe in Warner Center. She had pointed out that when we moved Pierce College, we took the entire census block, but in so doing, we split Exhibit Place and Etna Place on the south border, so that the residents that backyards border Pierce College is in 4 or 2, and the rest of that community is in 3. So if there's a way we could also split that census block so that the south boundary is 4 or 2 to bring those individuals on Exhibit Place, and it looks like about 30 homes on Exhibit Place and Etna Place back into CD3.
Okay, so I'm assuming, Frank, that's another note that we can make.
Frank, you want me to send you an email with the details?
That'd be very helpful, Commissioner. I really appreciate it. Christine Rowe has been a regular feature of this process, so I look forward to clarifying that with her directly as well.
We're both aware of that, yes, but yeah. I think that's a fair comment on her part. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kanya. Commissioner Friedberg.
Yes, thank you for recognizing me, Chair. I just wanted to ask about the Silver Lake Reservoir. In the current map, it's still in one district, and that is because it's in one census tract. And we had talked about the requests from the Silver Lake Reservoir Conservancy and others who wanted it split between two districts.
Frank, do you want to comment on that? Commissioner Friedberg, 1 minute. I think Frank is taking notes.
Yeah, I'm just taking notes. I thought that had been placed in in one district. I'll verify that. And Commissioner Friedberg, if perhaps I can circle back with you and make sure we get the right information from you. Great.
That'd be great. Yes, it's to be split in two districts.
In
Between the
two.
two districts.
Got it.
Thank you, Commissioner Friedberg.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barrett.
Yes, thank you. I'm wondering whether our executive director can let us know the best way to highlight these census tract splits. Is it a particular place in the report, or is it maybe to have a list added as an additional appendix?
What I'm thinking is that there would be an appendix which has these particular splits and issues itemized.
Thank you, Commissioner Barrett. Are there any other questions, discussion? Yes, Commissioner Kanya.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ali. I have a couple comments as relates to certain sections. If there's a way that we could bring that up, if somebody could bring it up, because there's a couple sections I want to quote. Are we able to bring up the majority report? Because I would like to review page 31 and 30. And Harit, I've got a question for you, so please be on the ready.
I'm happy to do that. I can just give me one
Thank you.
second, Commissioner Kanya.
So it's page 31, I'd like to start.
If you would like to begin, Commissioner Kanya, while I pull this up, I just
Sure.
exited out of it, unfortunately, so I have
Sure.
to take a
So
moment.
this is in regards to the designation of 4 and 2. So what I'll do is I'll bring it up on my screen so I can read it. And this is page 31, designation of districts 4 or 2 and 2 or 4. And there's a statement here: there exists no known criteria from any legal authority for the commission to rely upon on assigning numbers to districts. Harit, could you advise on that, please?
Commissioner, no, I don't have any information for you on that. I think the commission is determined they're going to leave it to the discretion of the council to make that determination, and that's the commission's determination here. I don't have any particular advice to give you in the setting on that issue.
So my question is, if there's no known criteria for any legal authority to rely upon on assigning numbers, are we saying we can't or we can? That's where I'm confused.
Well, I think that question is for the executive director.
Yeah,
But it's a question about legal authority. That's why I'm asking for your opinion.
I've already, I think, answered the question. I think it's for the executive director. I didn't author this particular piece, but
Okay.
I think the commission has made the determination that it's going to leave it to the council to determine, and that's where we are.
Okay, so then let me get to my second question. On the last sentence of that paragraph, and sorry, Ariana, have you brought it up yet? Yeah. So if you go to the last sentence of that paragraph, it says, and sorry, let me bring up my version because I can't see that. It says a majority of commissioners decided the question would be left within the council's purview. I looked at all the minutes from September 27th onward. I could not see anything that indicated a majority of commissioners decided. So I'm not sure that is accurate unless there's something, and I looked at some of the testimony on Zoom. I couldn't find anything where the majority of commissioners decided questions should be left within the council's purview. Is there something I'm missing?
I would presume it was the vote last week to adopt this draft map that left them undesignated.
Isn't that that's not what it stipulates, though?
That was my assumption, but I'd leave it to the author.
And I will just say, Commissioner Kanya, that I considered that question as part of the overall approval of the map, where it was clearly designated, it was clearly identified as undesignated.
Okay.
So that would be my response as well. Commissioner Polanco, it looked like you.
I'm sorry, I had more questions, Chair.
Okay.
I'm not yielding yet. If we could go to page 30, and I want to talk about Region 4, a new vision for representation of the San Fernando Valley emerges. And I want to go to the second paragraph, second sentence. And it says, relying on the commission's commitment to maintain or secure the intactness of neighborhoods, including neighborhood councils, the design of the Valley began with the Warner Center, Tarzana, Encino, and Sherman Oaks neighborhood councils. Correct. Because the district was designated starting with Warner Center and Tarzana, which anchor current District 3, this new district was designated as proposed council District 3. I would recommend that we strike that last sentence. I have 5 issues with that. It is correct that Warner Center and Tarzana are in District 3. Encino is in District 5, and Sherman Oaks is in District 4. So therefore, I believe the proper designation of this district would be 3354, because that's what it represents. My second objection is that if we're saying that this is District 3 because the majority of the neighborhood councils reside in this district, if we look at 402, we have Canoga Park, Winnetka, Reseda, which are in the current District 3. We have Lake Balboa and half of Van Nuys. If we look at 402, 2/3 of the neighborhood councils are in 402 versus 50%. So clearly 402 should be designated as District 3. My third concern is even if we just look at the current District 3, there are 5 neighborhood councils: Warner Center, Woodland Hills Warner Center, Tarzana, Canoga Park, Reseda, and Winnetka. 60% of the districts of the neighborhood councils in the current CD3 are in 402. So it should be 402 should be the CD3. My fourth objection is, okay, let's not look at neighborhood councils, let's look at population. 62% of the population in the current CD3 is in 402. Only 38%, about 1/3, is in the District 3. Finally, my objection to this is if we started in this district and we started at Warner Center and designated that as a CD3, that seems really random, because if Frank had started in the East Valley and looked at NoHo and Valley Glen first, then that whole thing by this definition would be CD2 regardless. And now we call it CD2 or 4. So my recommendation is we just strike this last sentence. It's confusing and it doesn't make any sense.
Frank, do you want to respond to that?
The Commissioner, 31 days ago, I gave a 41-minute presentation on how the Valley portion of then K corrected was designed. I serve at the pleasure of the Commission. If this is not representative of that description, and in the absence of any numbering that is different than what has been in K in its various iterations over the past 31 days, then I presume that I am prepared to take the Commission's majority direction now.
If I may respond.
Yes, Commissioner Khan. And can we bring down the screen share, please? Thank you.
You are correct. You did spend 45 minutes explaining that on September 27th. You know, I had a number of questions for you on the 30th. Everything you said, everything in that report, I believe. My concern is the decision is aside from the 5 issues I gave, it seems very random and capricious, number one. And number two, we never took a vote on this. This was something that staff or leadership decided arbitrarily to make this CD3 without consulting the commissioners and having a deliberation of how we should do this. The decision was made and it was brought forth to us, and the majority said this was okay. It's not okay because we're not representing the majority of the district. The majority of the district is in 402. That should be the numbering system.
Commissioner, respectfully, permit me to resist mightily the characterization that I have done anything arbitrarily independent of commission direction. You want it a different way? Take a vote. 31 days ago, I articulated how that portion of the map was arrived at. There's been all this time to arrive at a different imagination of what the numbering should be. It is not my place to act arbitrarily. I am your staff. Commission, make a decision. If it's going to be otherwise, now's the time.
Yeah, Commissioner Frank, thank you for that. And I just want to point out, Commissioner Kanya, that I believe you're going back and discussing an issue really that I think was resolved last week when we approved this map, because numbering was clearly assigned on that map. And so that map was approved by a majority vote of the commission. So Commissioner Katz, it looks like you want
Chair,
to.
if I may respond
No,
and disagree, I'm not going back to something from last week. I'm going back to our core vision and purpose of inclusive leadership.
Commissioner Kanya,
Thank you.
please, I recognize Commissioner Katz.
The notion that there's any one right place to start drawing reapportionment maps is just wrong. The fact, just like it's wrong to say there's only one right way to reapportion a city, et cetera. You can start in the north, you can start in the south, you can start in the east, you can start in the west, you start somewhere. And that's what our executive director said. And when he explained, I'll also point out, as the chair did, that these numbers have been there for weeks now. And a lot of motions have come and gone. Some have passed, some haven't. That would have been the appropriate time to change it. But after the map was adopted, unless we're going to open up the whole map, which probably some of you would like to do, I'm not one of them. I think, we're at a point where we're talking about the report now, not the maps, and we should move on. I also want to take the opportunity, because I don't plan to speak again, I hope, just to thank again the staff. Fred, if you'll indulge me for 1 second.
Please.
The amount of work, I don't think people have any concept of how hard it was for, and how much work and effort it took on behalf of our staff. As we'd sit here, we'd sit here for 5, 6, 7 hours on these Zooms, making changes, making notes, making comments, all of which they had to take down, all of which they had to process, and then all of which they had to produce into maps and reports for the next day or 2 days later. It's a phenomenal amount of work, and to take all the public hearings and transcribe it, to get all that data and all the information is, as a number of people have said, unprecedented. And I challenge, frankly, the city council and their process, whatever it's going to be a fraction as transparent and open and inviting to the public as the work this commission has done. I am in my 30, 40 years in politics, have never seen anything as open and available in as many languages as we were translating into, so that everybody in this city had an opportunity to participate. And, I'm proud to be a part of that. I appreciate Chairman Ali and Chairman Cardenas and Executive Director Cardenas' leadership in making that happen, along with our staff and the translation services. That's truly an unprecedented effort.
Thank you, Commissioner Katz. Commissioner Polanco?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I think this issue is an issue that has been resolved. I think you are correct in your interpretation. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge Frank and staff. They have done an incredible job to bring the kind of proposed changes that appear before us at this point in time. That train left when this commission voted to move forward. It was ample time, and I think it's just a way to reconfigure and undo that of what is in a document before us ready to go. Those are not technical changes. Those would have consequences, I believe. And so I would resist any, I would, as a commissioner, I would ask the commission, that issue has in fact been addressed. A train has left. And with all due respect, I think the time has come for the question to be called for.
Chair Ali, if I may respond to Senator Polanco.
Commissioner Kanya, please.
Very quickly, I did not make a motion to change. And I understand Commissioner Polanco and Commissioner Katz that this is an up or down vote on the majority report. My request was the last sentence be removed, because I think it creates more confusion to the reader and creates more suspicion to the reader, and it is in the best interest to just take that out.
Thank you.
I am concerned with the arbitrary and capricious nature of some of these decisions, and I am trying to give the majority support, because if you want to provide evidence that it's an arbitrary and capricious decision, that sentence is one element. And so I would recommend that that sentence just be struck.
Thank you, Commissioner Kanye. Commissioner Delgadillo.
I disagree, and I think I agree with the current language, and we should stay with it, and we should vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Delgadillo. I just want to say once again, I mean, Commissioner Kanye, with all due respect, the idea that things were done in an arbitrary manner, I must object to. I think it's affront to the process we've used and the staff that has been very clear in outlining each step of the way. Each step of the way has been reviewed and ultimately approved by the commission. So are there other comments on this? Okay, I think we are now ready for a vote. It would be a vote on approving the report as written for presentation to the City Council tomorrow. And with the understanding that the notes identified earlier by commissioners will be included in our recommendations to the council. So he's seeing no other hands up for discussion. Ariana, can we now take the vote?
Chair Ali.
Yes.
Vice Chair Diaz.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hune.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett.
Yes.
Commissioner Bramon.
Yes.
Commissioner Brenes.
Yes.
Commissioner Kanya.
No.
Commissioner Delgadillo.
Yes.
Commissioner Friedberg.
No.
Commissioner Goldberg.
No.
Commissioner Katz.
Yes.
Commissioner Lay.
No.
Commissioner Minato.
No.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Yes.
Commissioner Membreño.
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Polanco.
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard.
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
No.
Chair, this motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very, very much, commissioners, for that vote. And again, I want to acknowledge the work that Frank and Ariana in particular, and Raphael and Rob put into the development of this report. It was done under great time pressures, I think everyone realized. So thank you very, very much for what I think was really a heroic effort. So can we, let's move forward, and can we read the second agenda item into the record, please?
Item number 2, approval of the minutes.
Okay, thank you. So what we have is we have a number of minutes from October 6th, 9th, 13th, 16th, 18th, 19th, and 21. So is there a motion to approve? Yes, Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes, I just need to tell you that I will have to be abstaining since I did not attend all of those meetings.
Thank you, Commissioner Goldberg. Commissioner Kanya?
Two corrections, Chair Ali. On October 16th on page 3, the bottom of page 3, my name is misspelled. It happens. In the middle of page 4, there's a comment about fix the CD6. I would not use the word fix. That may, it's a little pejorative. I would suggest we just say change CD6.
Fair
This
comment.
is the middle of page 4.
Fair comment, Commissioner Kanya. Thank you. Thank you for that. So can I have a motion for approval on these minutes?
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second. Harit, do we need a roll call on this? I bet we do.
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very, very much. So can we have can we have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Ali.
Yes.
Vice Chair Diaz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hune,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Braymond,
Yes.
Commissioner Brenes,
Yes.
Commissioner Kanya,
Yes.
Commissioner Delgadillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
I need to abstain as I did not attend all of those meetings.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Lay,
Yes.
Commissioner Minato,
Abstain.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Membreno,
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno, Commissioner Polanco,
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
This motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, commissioners, for that vote. And now can we read the third agenda item into the record, please?
Approval of amended and restated contracts for Lex Lingua Inc. and Heatherlyn Gonzalez.
Okay, is there a motion to approve those contracts?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Commissioner Kanya?
Thank you, Chair Ali. I'm just curious why we're getting the contract at the completion of the service and not at the
Ariana, do you want to?
initiation.
Yeah, Ariana.
So they're actually amended and restated contracts. You've already voted on them, but I have to change the contract amount. So that was what we sent them back out for your approval.
Could you summarize what the key changes are? Because I
Yeah,
didn't read the amended one. I'd read the first one.
Yeah, the key changes is the contract amount, because what we had originally scheduled for, we had throughout the process, it changed because of all the meetings and the hours. So we had to amend the contracts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ariana. So can we call the roll on this vote? I don't see any other discussion.
Chair Ali,
Yes.
Vice Chair Diaz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hune,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Braymond,
Yes.
Commissioner Brenes,
Yes.
Commissioner Kanya,
Yes.
Commissioner Delgadillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Lay,
Yes.
Commissioner Minato,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Membreno,
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno, Commissioner Polanco,
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
This motion passes.
Okay, thank you again very much, Ariana. And then can you read the next agenda item into the record, item number 4, I believe?
Findings to continue teleconference meetings pursuant to AB 361.
So I am going to turn to Harit to explain this.
Thanks, Chair Ali. So I know we have one thing we all agree that the commission does not want to meet again, but if there's a remote chance the commission has to meet again, we need to make these findings under the new state law to allow those meetings to occur virtually. I will read the statement that this commission needs to move and adopt. And if I can have someone move that and second it in the vote, that's the way we should go. Someone needs to make the motion that they move that the commission determines in accordance with AB 361, section 3E3, that this commission has reconsidered the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency, and that the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person, and or state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. If there's a motion to make that finding and a second and a vote will be done.
So
Does
moved.
somebody want to make that motion? Commissioner Katz? Is there a second?
Second.
Second on that motion. Okay. Is there any discussion on that motion? Yes, Commissioner Polanco.
Yes, what happens if commissioners decide it's time to resign, the work's done? How are we affected by that, if there is an effect?
It's extremely unlikely the commission will meet again. We just have to make these findings in order to, if by chance there is a return to the commission for any reason, and if a commissioner is resigned by then, a new commission would be appointed. But I think we just need to make these findings. It's fairly pro forma ministerial. I apologize for taking up your time with them.
Yeah, and I am dedicated, Commissioner, to not meeting again. As much as I love and enjoy spending my time with all of you, I think we've come to an end. So I think can we take the roll on this, please?
Chair Ali,
Yes.
Vice Chair Diaz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hyun,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Braymon,
Yes.
Commissioner Brenes,
Yes.
Commissioner Kanya, Commissioner Delgadillo. Oh,
Yes.
you were Commissioner Kanya, you were muted.
Thank you. I am going to abstain because I don't quite understand what the issue is, and I would love to continue to have more of these meetings.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Delgadillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Lay,
Yes.
Commissioner Minato,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Membreno,
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno, Commissioner Polanco,
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
This motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully that's the last motion that will be presented for your consideration in the history of this commission. So thank you. Thank you very, very much. So
One more motion. The one to adjourn.
Chair.
That is right. But before we adjourn, just bear with me for a minute. And we do also have to do ex parte disclosures. But I just want to once again thank the commissioners thank you all for your hard work and commitment to this process. You know, it's not lost on me that we've had so many meetings over the last 12 months. We've always had quorums at our meetings. We had good quorums for all of our public hearings, and I know that was probably really appreciated by the citizens of the residents of Los Angeles. So I want to commend you. I want to commend you for that. And it's been a long, arduous process. At times, it's been very contentious. And I also want to thank you for the spirit in which you've engaged in this in this discourse, and for staying with the process and getting it to finally this closure. I also once again want to thank Frank and the staff. I want to say the names: Rob Battles, Ariana has been phenomenal. At times I wonder how she handles it all. Rafael Gonzalez, who has also been just so amazing. Somebody that you don't always see, Oscar Cruz, who has done great work for us as well. And I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. We've had a number of support staff. Ariana, do you want me to help? Help me?
Tania Smith has been fantastic. She came on and she's been wonderful with meeting minutes and a lot of administrative support. And I can't thank her.
Tania, yes, thank you. Thank you so much for your work. I also, as I've done in the past, and I think you all join with me, I want to acknowledge the work of our translators. It's such tough work, and they have done such a great job of it. I want to recognize the work of our community-based organizations who did such a great job on the outreach side. So thank you to them. I want to once again recognize and thank the work of our friends at CLA, and in particular Oscar Ixco, who has been just so fantastic throughout this whole process. And Oscar, I know, I'm not sure if I see you here tonight, but there you are. Thank you so much, Oscar, for everything you've done. And I also want to recognize, I think, Paul Mitchell. Paul, are you still in the room with us? Currently, maybe not, but I want to recognize the work of redistricting partners. They have done phenomenal work for us, and the public map drawing was not easy, and but they helped us demonstrate that it's possible. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank members of the public for staying with us throughout this process. Your engagement was so helpful. We agreed from the start we would center data and public testimony. You have allowed us to do that. So thank you very, very much to the members of the public. And I should also probably say thank you to all of our families who put up with this over the last number of months. So thank you to that. So with that, I would welcome any other comments from commission members if you want to acknowledge anyone or anything that I have forgotten. I think everyone wants to go home. So, okay, so let's do the ex parte communication one last time. I don't see, oh, Commissioner Kanye, yes, please.
Yes, I did receive a email, a text from Caro Tarosian, the Chief of Staff for Paul Krikorian, 5 minutes ago.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kanya.
What?
Commissioner Katz?
Yeah, 8:15, 8:15.
8:15, okay. Commissioner Katz, did you have a comment?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. I want to recognize some community members.
Oh, I am so sorry. Absolutely. Pastor Anderson, I promised you would do this and it's so appropriate. So can you say a couple words? So please.
I'm going to put a hat on so you can understand what I'm going to talk about here.
Yes, please. Thank you.
My hat says The Row on it. This week, LA lost one of his greatest angels. The Row references Skid Row. General Jeff, as many of us knew him, he was a friend of mine and many of us who have done this work on the ground. He passed away this week. And General Jeff, one of his biggest cries was always that, as we talk about neighborhood councils, he wanted a Skid Row neighborhood council so that they could have a voice in what happens in this city, especially what's happening on Skid Row. And so I know his family very well, and many of us know him. And he wished that LA would be a city of equity, in a city that did right by those who are houseless in our city. He had a home in South Central, but he chose to stay in Skid Row and to make sure that the conditions were better for people on the ground. And so I would like us to adjourn in memory of General Jeff, one of the most fierce advocates for neighborhoods, for people, for all the things that we say we want to fight for. I actually be adjourned in honor of General Jeff on tonight.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Anderson, for reminding me of, reminding us all of that. And so I think the motion now is to adjourn in honor of General Jeff. So thank you so much. And all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Good night, everyone. Stay safe and hope to see you again in a different sort of form. Good night.
Thank
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for this great experience.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And LD and the closed captioners, thank you as always. Let me know when if you've got it downloaded.
I've got the file. Thank you.
Thank you for your great work. Honestly, Unicella, amazing job. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye everyone. Bye, Javier. Bye, Annabella, if she's still here. Thank you as always, Javier.
Thank you guys very, very much for all the hard work.
Bye. Ciao.
All right, you ready to end?
Yeah, debrief.